Hello, everybody. It's 4:30 a.m. Central Time on the 22nd of September 2022. I have to keep my voice slightly down. Duchess is asleep downstairs. Thank God she's downstairs, but I'm not really too worried about that. She'll understand. Again, we have a big earthquake that just struck again. Another one. 6.8 to 7.0 range earthquake back down here in Mexico. And it's in a slightly different location. I'm going to go pull the coordinates on this. We'll go look it up. Also go put it on Google Earth, see what's there. Europeans have it at 6.8. USGS also has it at 6.8. So they both have it at 6.8. Also, the Europeans are, well, their site, I don't know what's going on with their site right now. Okay, it just loaded. It's been giving me some problems. Not just me. It's not been loading for a lot of people. But anyway, they have it at 6.8. USGS has it at 6.8. Even the mainstream media is somewhat covering it. There's already one fatality, unfortunately, guys. It's a big earthquake again. It's not as big as the 7.6, obviously. I'm going to go pull the coordinates from the USGS, and we're going to go look up the earthquake information on the stations which are reporting. Oh, wait. Hold on one second. Clicked on the wrong quake there. Okay. If I can click on the right earthquake. There we go. Now, we're going to click on the tsunami just to see what they have. They don't have a warning, advisory, watch, or threat going on right now. That's good news. So even though the new big earthquake hit, there's no wave on that. Going back to the stats on the quake, it's actually a deeper or a more deep earthquake than the previous. And the people are saying, according to a lot of reports, that it was even more intense for some reason. Now, that could be because of uplift, maybe. I would think normally it would be more shallow. A shallower earthquake would cause a more intense shaking. Let's go look at the origin page and just see what the magnitudes are. We're not going to dog on the USGS for bringing it in at 6.8 to 6.9. But I would like to go down. Here's body magnitude. Let's go down to the station details, see what's going on. Now, the way I do this is I look at all the stations that are reporting. I throw out the high end and we throw out the low end. That kind of gives us a good idea of really what it is in the middle. You understand that? It's just basic there. So we'll throw out the low ends of the six low end sixes. We know it's not a low end 6. And the highest we're going looks like 7.2, 7.1, 7.1. If I see a lot of 7s on the list, I'll think it's a 7. 7.2. Anything bigger? Yeah. 7.4, 7.2. A lot of 7s on the list, guys. A lot of 7s. Look. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Now, the weighted magnitude, the way they, again, come in and recalculate down, it is what it is. Professionals do what they do. I'll just say it, guys. It's more like a 7. Again, it's 6.9 to 7. So another 7 is hit. They can go do the crazy downgrades all they want. This many stations showing 7 plus activity on it. We'll throw out the low end and throw out the high end. What does that leave us with? 6.9. What's the difference between a 6.8 and a 6.9 or a 6.9 and a 7? It's not really that much difference. Power-wise it is, but again, for the average public, if you're going to see it, what's the difference between a 6.8 and a 6.9? Now, to me, again, it's splitting hairs because we're talking about something near 7, right after the other 7. We also have volcanic activity that's taking place nearby over at Popocatépetl. Not too huge, but worthy mentioning the volcano nearby over in Mexico to the east. Oh, man. Okay, so it's another big quake. Now, I'd like to pull the coordinates, go see what's there in Michoacan, Mexico. So let's go just take a look. This will be the first time I've actually looked up the earthquake epicenter on Google Earth. So come along with me on a little voyage of discovery as we take a look around, see if there's anything there nearby other than, well, I looked it up when the first earthquake struck, but we didn't do too much detail inspection. So we do have a little house there, but not too much else nearby. Let's take a look back out. Any volcanoes other than Colima up to the north? Of course, Michoacan. I won't even try pronouncing that. Guanajuato? Anyway, look at all the volcanoes here. Do you guys know about all the volcanoes here? Check this out. Here, most people don't know, so let me just zoom in and show you. So every single one of these is a different little crater or cone that's now being farmed in many cases. And I'll just turn it at an angle so you can see them a little bit better. I mean, they go on in whole sections, whole rows. Some of them are older, some of them are younger, they're weathered. And then you see how many there are just right here. I mean, we can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're up to 20 right here alone. Now, take a look at how many there are. It just goes on and on for miles and miles, or hundreds of miles. Here's a lava flow. That lava flow literally broke out the side of this mountain here. You see it? Broke out both sides right there, flowed out. It's at the base of this, whatever this thing's called. Doesn't even have a name on it. That's a volcano right there. That is. All these around it are. Every single one of these are. The bigger shield volcanoes and the smaller cones in between them. Then you see how many there are. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that they're all over here. Every single one of those little craters that you see. And big craters. Some of them are huge. Caldera almost. And then others are smaller cones or so forth. Now there's stories about these just popping up overnight in many cases. And it goes all the way along. This is Mexico. So, all the way over to the west, we go over with the volcanoes. And all the way over to the east, we go over to the volcanoes. The volcanic fields themselves are visible from high above. And the earthquakes down here along the coast, right here along the plate boundary. Now, the plate boundary. Let's open up a USGS plate boundary map. Just take a look, see what's going on. Oh, wait, we got a new earthquake reported. What? What's this? A new earthquake reported out in the ocean, out off the coast of the United States. Holy cow. We'll get into that in a moment. We'll also get in the earthquake that struck down here in New Zealand. A lot of people contacting me about that over on YouTube. But first of all, plate boundary, take a look at it. You guys need to memorize this, or at least try to remember where the plate boundaries are on my globe here. Globe, right? On the planet here, we have the arrows indicating where the plate boundaries are. And down here in Mexico, right along the plate boundary, go back over to the map. It's over here where the big circle is, the earthquake, the big new earthquake that just struck. Now look at the red line. Look where it goes. It goes down to the south, and it meets up here, Guatemala. In Guatemala, we have Fuego Volcano. It's been erupting over the past few weeks. There's even video that came out recently in the past couple weeks of tourists or hikers that were right up at the peak, and it blew sky high, and they actually started running. It was the Darwin Awards, up on a volcano that's currently erupting. But anyway, you see our big earthquake there, and we see over to the east, that's where the plate boundary goes, have a cluster of earthquakes all the way around Puerto Rico. It's like a target, and right in the middle, I have a warning going for a new upper 5, possibly low 6, to be coming into Puerto Rico. But let's talk about the other earthquake, all the way on the opposite side of the Pacific, southwest side, 5 to 5.2, and I think USGS has it at 5.2. Zoom in and show you where it is. See the Cook Strait, Marlborough, Wellington, and right there in the middle, in between, it's on the north side of the Cook Strait, there's our plate boundary right next to it. You see it goes down across, and then on the west side of New Zealand, it continues on all the way down to the south, meets up with our fracture zones to the south, north of Antarctica. Supposedly. I wouldn't know. I've never been there. Have to trust the USGS. Trust in USGS. Those are like USGS 4-letter word. BSGS. Sorry. It's late. All right. Anyway, back to it. So 5 point something. Let's just call it a mid-range to low-end 5. Struck plate boundary up on the north side. Check it out. Obviously, we have 2 moderately deep earthquakes which struck. Now, this is actually right next to a volcano that's right in the middle of what looks like a catcher's mitt. This looks like a catcher's mitt. We call it the catcher's mitt position, actually. And there's a volcano in the middle that actually erupted just, I want to say, a couple years ago. And a 5 point something earthquake had struck right in the middle here. Oh, first of all, the volcano is called White Island, by the way. But volcano did not show activity first. It was just maybe steaming, and they were taking tourists out there to see it by the hundred. Then a 5 point something earthquake struck in the middle of this catcher's mitt. Looking shape here. Bay of Plenty is what this place is called. Is it? Or wait. Is this the Bay of Plenty? I don't know. I'm going on memory here. Okay, so anyway, White Island had the tourist on it. 5.0 earthquake struck. Then, like the next day, it blew sky high, and a whole bunch of people either got injured or killed. It was terrible. Now, I have to talk about this just because of the earthquake that struck down south on the plate boundary. One more time, here's where the quake is in New Zealand. I'm doing this little update here just for my New Zealand viewers. I heard about your little warning for Taupo volcano. What warning am I talking about? Maybe you heard about it, maybe you didn't. Some kind of earthquake swarm happening down below at the bottom of Taupo. Taupo is a large volcanic crater. It's not a super volcano, and that's actually filled with water, right? But anyway, Taupo is still huge. It's the biggest on the North Island, I think, and we have an earthquake swarm. That's not my take on it, the warning and all that talk. That's from all the people down there. The professionals, I mean. Now, you can look it up in the news. I don't know if it's going to actually bring up much, but you're welcome to go search it. I don't think it's going to do a super huge blast or anything like that, guys. I think we're looking at seismic. Check it out. Look where our rings overlap. We have our 5 down to the south. We have our deep 4s up to the north. Check it out. Look at it as a side view here. Think of it like this. The deep earthquakes that are raised high off the globe, down in the basement. And then the 5.2 is up at ground level. And there's a staircase that connects between the basement and first floor, ground level. And so, coming up from the basement, 4 point something, 4.2. And then up above it, 5.2. Now, in between them, halfway up the staircase, if we go and look down this way, now we're looking from straight above, and we find the halfway point between the two. Halfway down the staircase, but also linear halfway point, and we're looking right here. Where does that put us? Where the rings overlap. You see it? All the rings overlap on Taupo, where there's a swarm going on that the professionals are worried about. So, I don't think it's anything to worry about eruption-wise, but those are famous last words. Let me go ahead and knock on wood as I say that. Yeah, nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about, guys. Come on, make the sound effect with me. Come on, it'll put a smile on everybody's face, even down in New Zealand. Come on, mates. Is that how you say it? Come on, mates. Okay, enough goofing around. So, we're going to look right in the middle, but we're only going to look for 5.0 level activity. When a 5 hits on the North Island of New Zealand, we've seen it so many times with 5s that it's enough to knock things off shelves. It's enough to send people scrambling under desks, which is right because there's going to be things falling. So people get under the desk. There's usually some live streamers that are going down there that when 5.0 plus activity strikes, they're first to catch it. So right now we're dealing with 5s and 4s. However, we're playing with fire around the rest of the Pacific plate, and I am not joking. I'll talk about the rest of the Pacific in a second, but all the way around the Pacific, 7s have been taking place. And let's go back to that plate boundary map one more time. New Zealand, look where you are. Now, I've kind of left you out of it because the energy's flown to the west, to the east, and to the north. Now, we're seeing the flow go down south, right along the plate boundary. We have deep earthquakes on the north side in the Bay of Plenty, and the 5 is on the Cook Strait. So Catcher's Mitt and the plate boundary to the south. So where the blue earthquake is in New Zealand and the orange earthquake. When I see stuff like this start to happen, when I see the North Island start to move, I then start to watch for 2 things. 1, for a flow go down to the south, all the way down to the south, and I look for the middle points to get hit. And that's why we're going to warn Taupo volcano. No duh, it's already got the activity there. So just again, size, we're going to go up to 5.3, maybe 5.2, maybe about the same size as what struck down south. So I would just add just a little bit more to it because of the current earthquake swarm at Taupo. So 5.2, 5.3 North Island. In the middle, in between these 2 current earthquakes, it's basically just another same-sized earthquake. The difference is when it strikes on land, it gets almost everybody's attention. Now, let's go talk about this new earthquake that struck up here on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. Now, do you see the pinnacle tips of the Juan de Fuca? They look like jagged edges of a sawtooth. Belongs to the Pacific Plate. Here's North America. In between them, the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. And professionals say this is the leftover remnant of an ancient plate being pushed down below North America. I think it's just a broken part of either the Pacific or North America. And that the jagged edges belong to the Pacific for sure, and they're pushing into it, and it's a broken edge, either on North America or on the edge of the Pacific plate. Not a remnant of an ancient plate being pushed underneath. Anyway, so, earthquake, pinnacle tip. What size? 4.0, right? No, USGS decided to take it down to 3.9. Well, that's pretty interesting. Because of the other earthquakes that struck over the past week, they decided to also downgrade 4.4 to a 4.3 there. It's almost like they just shave off a point on everyone. Let's go take a look and see what the actual magnitudes that are being reported on the local stations. Just see what they're showing. Again, we go with what the USGS shows. Local magnitudes showing less. Look at that, 3.2, right? 3.2 average. So let's just throw out the low end and throw out the high end. It'll give us a good idea of what it really is in between. Maybe they're right. Maybe it is a 3.9. I don't see any 4s on the... Oh, I stand corrected. There's one. But just 1 4 on the local magnitude list. Are they overshooting? Are they actually overballing it? Instead of underballing it? Is that even a word, overballing it? Overshooting it? What do you want to call it? Okay, well, 2 4s, that's it on the local magnitude list. Okay, well, throw out the 4s, throw out the low-end 3s. Where does that leave us? Upper 3. Mid to upper 3. So, wow, I'm shocked. You know, proof you shouldn't dog the professionals all the time. Only dog them when they dog you first. And then dog them for the lifetime afterwards if they dog you. Okay. Anyway, so out here on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone, mid-range to upper 3, and a mid-range 3 striking just yesterday, right down here in California. You don't see it on the USGS feed. Looks like we also have an earthquake reported up here. Hold on. What's going on there? 3.2 up in Prince George, Canada. Really? Come on. Gotta start honoring the king. Okay. Okay. All right. No. That's not that. It's a different king, guys. Come on. Different George, different everybody, different... Wait, are they? Let's go look. No, not the king. Let's go look up the earthquake. The king, the prince. Where are we? We're in Canada. Oh, Canada. Come on, guys. Get your Molsons out. Tip your Molsons. It's like a 40 ounce. Now here, Prince George. We are right next to this. Nazco. What's it? Nazco Cone, the easternmost and youngest volcano of the Anaheim volcanic belt in the Chilcotin Nechako Plateau, central British Columbia. Now, I do recall there being a few other things over to the east by northeast from here. I don't know if we have any right here. Let me just zoom in and see if we have any of what I want to show you. Oh, look at that. A big mine. Looks like they're doing... Yeah. Big mine. Hold on. Major mine there. And the way you know it's a mine as opposed to something else is there's these big piles of rock and stone that are piled up and a facility of some kind nearby, and then you don't see a big quarry. There's not some kind of huge pit in the ground, so you know they're tunneling it out and bringing it up to the surface and putting it into piles. Okay, big mine there. Great. All right, let's go back and look at the earthquake info real quick. 5-kilometer depth. They may need to revise that and review this quake. It might be related to the mines. And if not, then this quake up here in Canada would be a man-made fault next to a mine, or a fault that becomes active or excited because it's next to a mine. Anyway, moving on, this. The edge of the North American Craton. Now, I am also going to show you, zooming in really close on the quake, notice how it's right in the middle of the arrow. But there's that mine there. So I'm just wondering if the mine had a problem, maybe they did some blasting, maybe it's a real earthquake, and it's right on the edge of the craton. And the craton, of course, we know is going to be moving. We're expecting the craton to move. One more time. Craton, look at it. Look at the rusty brownish color that goes up into Canada, goes down to Texas, and back up the East Coast. We're looking for that whole edge from up in Canada, down through Texas, back up the East Coast to move. And it's questionable about what's going on over on the East Coast. Anyway, over on the West Coast now, we have a 4, well, 3.9, whatever, upper 3, mid-range to upper 3. And down to the south, down in Mexico, a new 6.8 to 7. It's big-time movement going on. So New Zealand, you got to keep watch, at least 5.0. And when I say at least, it could go bigger. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Basing this on the current activity we see, I mean, let's just say a 7 comes rolling in. I mean, come on. We're dealing with 7s around the rest of the Pacific. So if I'm looking for a 5 there and a 7 hits, I am really sorry. I don't think it's preferring to the south. It'll look, I don't think, right? We can see it. We can see which way it's going. It went over to the west. It's heading over this way. And it went over to the east. It's heading over this way. And that's pretty normal. We see it go back and forth like that. Like a tennis match, back and forth between the West Pacific and East Pacific. There are many times where New Zealand goes, but usually it's accompanied with a bunch of new deep earthquakes all the way around the north side, going up this way, up across, up into New Caledonia with deep earthquakes. So, famous last words, I'm not going to say it's just impossible for it to happen, for a huge earthquake to hit down south. I mean, don't let your guard down. I mean, if you're looking for a 5, what's the difference between a 5 and a 7 in New Zealand? Well, a 5 is going to knock things off shelves, get people's attention. A 7 is going to really knock things off shelves and cause damage to the foundations of the houses and break water lines and sewer lines and cause major damage and injuries. It probably wouldn't cause severe destruction unless it struck right in the middle of a city or something, like in Christchurch when that 6, I think, hit. Oh, man, we're playing around with 7s, guys, and it's multiple 7s. It's not like it's just 1 or 2, guys. We're dealing with like 5 or 6 at this point the last week and a half. Going back 2 weeks, we're dealing with like 7. And several of them have been downgraded. So, the media is not going to get on and tell you about this. They're not going to get on and be like, oh, there's been 7 different 7s in the last week and a half. And, we're downgrading several of them so the general public doesn't panic. We're taking them down to 6.9, so general public doesn't see a 7 on the feed. Okay, anyway. Japan got hit right in the middle of the H-shape plate boundary, which I will show you here on the plate boundary map from the USGS. There we go. It's shaped like the letter H. Right there. Now, we're about a magnitude to a magnitude and a half under what I'm expecting to come into Japan. Japan, this past week, we had warned for 7.0 level activity. Tomorrow, one more day, 24 hours, the warning expires for the 7 on the coast of Japan. Now that a 5 is hit, we can divide the area down, find the previous earthquakes, and look for the middle point between our sets of quakes. So what are the middle points? There's only really 2 of them. There's 3 sets of earthquakes here in Japan, but all the rings overlap on the most famous earthquake zone on the planet. That's Fukushima Prefecture right there. Iwaki down to the south, I think, or is that... Anyway, Fukushima's right in the middle. Coast of Honshu, north of Tokyo. It's, again, the most famous earthquake zone on the planet because of the huge earthquake that struck 11 years ago? 11 years ago in 2011. 9.0 earthquake. Major tsunami. What else hit since doing my last update? You can go watch my last update. It's over on YouTube right now. So, over to the west, we had new earthquake activity breakout. You don't see it right now, but it's in western India, 3.0. Also, Bangladesh got a 3.3. No, is this India still? Hold on. India-Bangladesh border. Now, I had somebody ask me what to look for in Bangladesh. And if you guys want to see that, you can come over to my YouTube page, go to my most recent video, and I think it's favorited up. Well, if it's not favorited up, you guys can go poke around and find it. Had somebody from Bangladesh write me tonight, earlier, and ask me what the outlook was for here at the valley, going up north to the northeast towards Bangladesh. And they talked about the Ganges River, Ganges Basin. Now, I told them to watch from central India north up to the border with Nepal. And I said it was going to be a narrow miss for Bangladesh. Well, here we are. We are literally right on the border with the 3. Now, I warned them for up to 5.0 to strike here. A rare earthquake in India as opposed to the north side up in Nepal. The plate boundary goes through Nepal. And let me just show that to you here really quick. Oh, wait. Plate boundary map, of course. We need to go over to Nepal on the plate boundary map. And I'll show it how it bends through Nepal and goes up to the north. You see that? It's like a U shape here. And we're warning North India from basically the foothills north to the mountains, which the mountains are the Himalayan range. You have Mount Everest in there and so forth. But normally we're striking in Nepal, going north up into China. But in this case, we're going to watch down here over to the east, right through here. So if somebody's riding me from Bangladesh or in the area from India to Bangladesh and they're asking what are they going to get hit with, I'm looking just over here, right next to you, going north of the border. But if a 5 hits here, the chances are over to the east, you wouldn't feel it. But a 5's rare for India on that side. Down south, it all usually strikes to the north. And look what's going on to the north now. Take the 4.6 plus the 4.4 plus the 4.3 plus the 4.3. And we're at like 4.9, something in that range. 4.9, near 5.0's worth of energy has already been expended up here on the north side. North side of what? North side of this, the red line, the plate boundary. So we already have a 5.0's worth of energy striking up here today, all those 4s added together. And then on the south side, it's kind of like a yin-yang shape or so forth. Both sides should equalize. 2-arm scale where we're going to balance out on both sides. Okay? Over to the west, we're dealing with the same size quake. On the plate boundary in Iran, I talked about that earlier, so I don't need to refresh on that. The only additional activity is a new 3 back in the middle of the plate over in Iran. And new 2s and a 3 striking down south at Sicily, but we also have Mount Stromboli volcano right there that could be doing some Strombolian eruptions. That's a type of effusive lava flow. What else has hit since doing my update? I mean, is that not enough? I think that is it that's hit. I don't think there's very much more for me to talk about. But that is enough. A 4 off the west coast, right out in the middle of the Juan de Fuca fracture zone, or mid-range to upper 3. A new 7 or 6.8 down in Mexico, causing damage and fatalities. Dude. Man, look, guys, hold on. I got to take you back 2 weeks, so now 16 days. So just over 2 weeks ago, there was a 7.0 earthquake here. USGS downgraded to 6.9. Anyway, that hit, and on the opposite side of the planet, the antipode, a 6.1 hit. They were back-to-back, basically, okay? They were antipode earthquakes. I made my video, talked about it, and showed the whole planet, or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Showed the whole visible part of what we know the planet to be. How about that? Anyway, showed the 7 on one side, showed the 6 on the other, and said, look, planet's spreading or something. We're seeing a big worldwide event start. Then, within a few days, over here in China, a 6.6 to 7.0 earthquake. Some debate on that because of the hundreds, if not thousands, of people killed in the quake. 6.6, USGS brought it ultimately in at. They brought it in originally at, guess what? You'll guess it, 6.9. They brought it in at 6.9 and then took it down to 6.6. Anyway, it was devastating earthquake, 6.6. Then followed by the 7.6 here. 7.6 here at Papua New Guinea. Caused just major damage, but luckily it's rural, so the damage was just at localized structures around the area along the coast, and not many people are there. Was felt in the nearby cities, but felt versus damage is different. Okay, then another 7 struck here at New Caledonia. And I didn't see any video come out of there, but we're talking about so rural and so remote that getting video out of there might be hard to begin with anyways, just on a good day. So that's 3 7s. Then we have our Mexico quake, of course, that everybody's talking about. Now we have another 7 on top of that. I know we had another 7. Hold on. There was another 7 7.1 to 7.2, that struck in Taiwan and just devastated the island. This is all in the last week. 2 weeks at the most. And let me put it this way. We went months, and I had my live stream running, so many people know this, but live stream's not running anymore. We went months without sevens. Months. The highest we came in at was like 6.9. But now here we are. They can't even downgrade them all. So, and if they did, it would look really weird, right? So they're doing some of them down to 6.9, 6.8. But I'm telling you, they're sevens. And if they're not sevens, they're very close to it, the ones that aren't, right? So if they're 6.9, so what's the difference? It's a spread of the same size large earthquakes going around the planet. New Zealand just got whapped around a little bit. We have deep earthquakes north of New Zealand. We're going to watch over in Indonesia for new 7.0 level activity. We're going to watch all the way down in Chile still, South America, for 7.0 level activity. Up in Alaska, we're watching for 6. I already talked about that in my previous video. And over in the Caribbean, we're watching for 6. Over in Europe, we're watching for 6, down by Cyprus and Turkey. Now, there have been times in the past where Turkey gets just creamed with the cumulative total of everything in the West Pacific. Yes, Turkey, do you hear me? So 7 starts striking over here in the West Pacific. We see a trail of earthquakes leading over towards Europe. And then let me get back to the plate boundary map. I'm not saying that's going to happen now. I'm just talking about past examples where we've seen huge earthquake activity in the West Pacific, then a trail of 5s and maybe even a few 6s pop off following the plate boundary over towards Europe. But where it comes together in this bottleneck on the plate boundary at Turkey, we then get a big break from Greece to Turkey right in there. Well, really Turkey, where they meet up. It only happens a few times every decade. I mean, it's it's been me doing this for 12 years, and it's happened maybe twice. So it's happened twice where there's been some major 7.0 level activity, swarms of 7s, if you will, or not swarms, but clusters of 7s all the way around the Pacific. And then going over to Europe, we get a big outbreak. So I'm not issuing a forecast for that yet. I may need to do an additional forecast on top of my hour-long worldwide update that I did earlier. But this new 7 is just nothing to scoff at. It already just caused fatalities again, and we may not be done yet in the area. Now, the professionals are going to call this an aftershock. Let me just wrap this up. Professionals are going to call this an aftershock because it's a smaller earthquake in a nearby area. But I would say, look, we normally see a flow after a day or two go out of an area and the area calms down. We've had many examples of huge earthquakes hitting in the 7.0 plus level and then no aftershocks reported. As a matter of fact, if you're in the YouTube Premiere chat room, I'm not live right now, but you can do this. I'll be in chat with you. Press 1 if you've been there in the live stream or wherever and seen this, that when a big earthquake hits, huge, I mean, we're talking a 7 or an 8 even, and no aftershock. And then instead, we'll see other earthquakes pop off of similar size, maybe within a hair of a point of another, so like 7.5 hits, then downstream, down following the arrows, we'll see a 6.9 to 7, and then a 6.5, and so forth, spread out across a huge area, and then the earthquakes stop as the energy spreads out and away. But right now, this is sticking around. It's not really going too far. We don't have very much going down to the south or east yet. I mean, look over to the east. It's just a small cluster of earthquakes. We have the plate boundary. It connects basically between them. It's like a T intersection right down here at Guatemala. So I would expect an increase, big time, more than just a couple 4s. Way more than just a few 4s. I'd be looking for a new 6 to go over to the east. We got a 7 over here. We'd look for a 6 over to the east. And then going out to the X's too, I would expect the flow to ultimately go out to the X's. So this has me a bit worried. I don't normally get worried. I tell everybody not to be scared. Don't be scared. Be prepared. But it's okay to worry. Just don't worry too much. I think my wife will tell you I'm the worrier of the two, right? Okay. Let your worries be enough just for today, right? They are enough for today or something that way. I'm misquoting the Bible, but it's a good quote anyway. Looking at the United States, there's not much for me to add except for there's a new earthquake swarm which has developed out here in the past few hours. Let's just take a look. Zoom in. When I say a swarm, okay. A new outbreak taking place down at the south tip of Salton Sea. This is on top of the previous line of earthquakes that was going along the east side of Salton Sea that had a whole stack with them. Now we're focused in down at the south tip of Salton Sea. That's the only other additional information I have to add to this. Hawaii is still moving. There's no shock there. We talked about the swarm in my update. There's just more and more and more striking there. You might be getting ready to look at some kind of volcanic increase at Kilauea with all that activity. Okay, so let's get this saved. Let's get this out over on YouTube. I know it's late. It's 5:05 in the morning. This thing's going to take like an hour to upload. By the time it gets uploaded, it's going to be like 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to have a cup of coffee and a donut. All right. Now let's get serious. How many sevens is it going to take for you to take it serious? I know I joke around a lot, but I'm taking it serious. I got the industrial strength rubber bands out. You know what I'm going to use them for? To do my cabinet handles together so that the coffee cups don't come flying out until I can go buy some dang latches at the store. And I get the childproof latches. My wife's going to think I'm trying to keep her away from the coffee or something. Okay, now, do you have an emergency kit? Do I have your attention? If I don't have your attention, listen up. You need to have an emergency kit. And I'm serious, you need to do it. It'll come in handy for everything from a flood to a fire to an earthquake. Even sometimes if you just need to get out of the house, you're getting thrown out. Can I just please be serious for a second? You get thrown out of the house, I need to grab my bug out bag. Okay, it's 5 in the morning. I've been up all night. Can you tell? The point is, you need to have a kit with clothes in it, a set of shoes, an extra set of IDs, extra set of keys. Food and water, too, would be preferable. With the food, I wouldn't do too heavy of food or anything. I would do the lightweight granola bars and high sugars and high protein stuff. Slim Jims and just junk food, really. It would probably get you through the first few days of a disaster. And then after that, of course, you want to have long-term stuff. If the past few years of what everybody went through worldwide didn't teach you about having supplies of your own, I don't know what will. So if you didn't learn your lesson on that, geez. So, all right, let's get this uploaded. This is serious now, man. Oh, God, I've been on so many times. How many videos do I have to make? I'm just going to keep making them every time that a new big earthquake is hitting. It's just getting really, really wild for those of you who are paying attention to my live stream for the last 6 years that I was streaming. Look, this is go time, guys. I would get on the stream normally, and at this point, I'd be playing music, and we'd be brewing coffee, and we'd be waiting for the next one to hit. So because I'm not live, I will eventually be live again, hopefully soon. But because I'm not live, I'm going to have to keep making videos. And you guys need to be more of the watchman on the wall. You're going to need your own copy of Earthquake 3D, maybe. I don't get anything for recommending it, but you know what? I will put a link down below to Richard Walton's site so you can go download a free copy. There's a free version and there's a paid version. I don't get jack squat for recommending it. I pay for myself. But it's worth it. It's worth it to have a 3D whatever, whether it's a flat earth or a round one, 3D, to look down on it and look at the earthquakes at an angle and see which way they're progressing. It's like a crack in a slab of rock. You want to be able to look at it from above and you want to look at it from an angle and you want to see how many cracks there are and how many vibrations are going through it. Basically put. Anyway, I'll put the link down below. It'll take you over to walton.net, I think. I'll get the link. It'll be down below. Word up, much love, peace out.